Kwekwe greetings. Kwekwe is hello in Algonquin. Hello. So I finally got through the film Origin, the film that is based on the book, the best-selling book by Isabel Wilkerson called Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent. I intended to do a follow-up video to the first video, uh, which I posted yesterday, I believe. Yeah, on this film. I was going to try to do a like a pictorial where I just took pictures of the different scenes and leave the subtitles on so we could get a visual. But when I tell you that movie is on lockdown, you can't even take a picture. You can't even screenshot a scene from the movie. I took a bunch of screenshots, and then when I looked to possibly do the video, they were all blank. They were all blank with just the uh the subtitles or the closed captioning. So I was like, okay, this is just not gonna happen. Let me give it up. Let me give it up. But I am somewhat in an aftermath of this film, and I find that I am feeling sort of a fortune, a good fortune of even having that film being made after talking about the book so much, because it is a key part to, of course, the caste system that American Indians were put at the bottom of. Um, I have to say again that lately I've seen videos where in other words, it's not the government that did this to us. It's not. Even if it wasn't the government, what have they done to end this? What if we're going to say this was Britain that did all of this with no help? Uh, you know, where was our government to ensure that these classifications would never become law or statutes, I should say? Because none of this is law, really. This is all corporate stuff. So it's just sad that if in other words, if we don't know who our oppressor is, we're lost. It's we really have to get real. What this movie Origin did for me was, well, what it did when the moment I knew about the book and read through it, um this is something that is not unique to the Americas. And so if we have in the film and in the book, of course, if we have evidence, well, actually, also in the article we read about Walter Plecker and the paper genocide. So there's two bits of evidence that what was done in America was duplicated in Nazi Germany. So what am I saying? I'm saying that what Nazi Germany is said to have learned is not from Britain, is not being blamed for that. It's the government system here, this government, that is credited with its, you know, what we refer to as Jim Crow era. It is our government, not Britain, that is being credited with this system, you know. And because we are older than India, I'm led to believe that the caste system really got its beginning in the United States. So how is Britain, uh the total blame? It was a cooperation at best of a de facto government here, basically, that was infiltrated by British forces, but it is still the government of this country, right? Um, but what I hope to do here is just hash some things out, because we still have to deal with the fact that, and this is what kind of makes things very it kind of has to, again, I say, as I've said before, help to line things up. Okay, when we understand that this government, hmm, well, okay, um this government is a result of British influence. It is the brainchild of Britain. So we can't really separate this government from Britain and say, oh, this was Britain that did this. It is their system established on this land that makes us call it a foreign government. Okay. So so that's what made me feel, together with the film's evidence, and they played that out in the film when Isabel learns that Germany learned what they did from the United States. Okay. So they did not name Britain in that. They named this country because it was implemented here. The miscegenation laws and the misclassification, that didn't happen in Britain. It happened here. So we just have to be clear of who we are up against. We're not trying to be up against them. Many of us still think that this system is operating on the side of the people of this country. But again, when we have an influx of illegal immigrants and they're talking about allowing them to vote in, wait a minute, we have it is alleged that we fought, for the right to vote, right? So how does this government just throw that at illegals? This is something we should be highly offended at what this system is doing. But again, ultimately, we're not supposed to be in this system. So I'm just saying, when you see what we were made to go through, believing that we were going to be first class citizens like everyone else, which we wouldn't want that either because we are the original people of this land. But when in our deceived state, we had to fight for the right to be in this system. We shouldn't have, but we did. So when we see that it is this government that is throwing that at illegals, again, you have to know who your opponent really is. Now, I will never deny that Britain is at the bottom of the dunghill, as Anna always says. But we have to know when they have planted a system in our ancestral lands that is meant to do just what it's doing. So not only are these illegals going to be basically allowed to vote, and they probably won't even let us, they'll talk about it in the news. Meanwhile, it's just happening, they'll act like, oh, this had to go through and we're waiting, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure they're finding a way to, just like when they smuggle them in and we basically under the radar, we don't know that they're coming in. How do we know that they're not already voting? The news is just hinting at, oh, we got to give them, it has to go through court. I think they're rush jobbing these people, just like they're rushing them in. They're rushing them to take our place so that these elections will look legitimate, but added to the fact that they don't have to get the vaccine, they don't have to, they can carry, they have a right to bear arms that Americans barely have. They're they're not talking about them getting licenses, they're just saying they're allowed to have guns. How are you going to get, how would these people get licenses if they're not even citizens anyway? And then, added to the fact that they'll be basically allowed to squat in your homes. Now, these are people that will be armed where you're not, and they will be allowed to basically squat in your homes, and they'll be packing. So how are you, if God forbid, have to deal with something like this? You got illegal immigrants setting up fort in your home. You're not allowed to carry. They are. So you come to your door and they got a shotgun in your face. And then you'll get arrested for trying to get them out if you should succeed from not getting shot. And we could just follow this train. Will these people get prosecuted if they shoot you for trying to get into your house? How could they, right? They're not even citizens. They're not, but they're going to get a rush, job. If you're allowing them to do all this, why? What's the point of jailing them? So I'm very sorry. This government is heavily implicated in all these shenanigans. So that's why I thought it's time to revisit that article by the WASHITA Moors. Once again, let me share my screen. So here we go again. It's just, it's just, we have to get it from the horse's mouth. Okay. This is the author, once again, of America is the True Old World, parts 1 and 2. Oh gosh, his name, I should have looked that up before I came on. Amun Ra El Chavis El Bay, something to that effect. I'm sorry, I'm getting his name wrong, but Amun Ra. Oh, El Chavis Bay, I believe, or a combination of that. Okay, so we're gonna have to try to, okay, we'll have to do the old description box again, or in the comments, or both. So the WASHITA Moors, they've convinced me that they're the Moors. These are the ones that we are actually having this constant conflict with, on the YouTube platforms. They would have to be people that have been indoctrinated to believe, that these Moors, these Indian Moors, so-called, are uh quote unquote indigenous to America, right? So I believe that I just want to say it seems to me that a lot of our YouTube platforms have to be extensions of these Moors, the ones who are they're not, how do I say this? They're not really talking about a lawful legal remedy for us to get out, right? It's more like we have platforms that seem to talk about bloodlines a lot, and the royal bloodlines. So it's almost like we have some channels that just want to show that there's a connection between American Indians and Negropeans. And we should, you know, reconcile with the fact of that, But what I'm saying is, when do we move forward with what we have to do? Clearly there has been a misclassification. And those folks who insist on calling us by a caste system status are evidently in support of a caste system. And the caste system is built right into our legal system, which made me see, with the help of the work of state nationals, and how I see that they're navigating away from a commercial system, you know. Uh, so in other words, we can talk all we want about all these sidebar conversations about the Mongolians, the Moors, the Hebrew Israelites. It seems like they have not been coming up too much, but I think that's what the Yamasee is, right? Because the other ones they're all Moors, but I think the Yamasee, because they, I said they're the name of that tribe in the last video, and I was wondering, well, where do they? I said that, and I do recall that they're part of this, but I believe the Yamasee are being more linked with the Hebrew Israelites, whereas the Washita Moors, they're being more, with the straight up Islam, So revisiting this article again, this is a morning video, so we should have uh it shouldn't be over 2 hours. so so let's move straight down to you know the meat. Okay, the Amaru Washita Degdemundia Moors. Okay, we're reading this again because we want to be sure that the caste system that Isabel Wilkerson describes, when she says it's not about race, I think we need to hear that, because it's not about race here either, was what I'm trying to say. The whole system, as we will read in these highlights, was set up by Black Europeans who were under a king. So that's the thing I think we have to, the pivotal thing here. Like, we can argue about Negropeans. We can even say that, yes, they would have had to have been the West Indians who were kidnapped and taken to Europe as well as West Africa. But what made them turn on their own people when they were dumped here as colonists? We have to remember they were under the domination of a king, King James. So if we ever wish to reconcile somewhat with, you know, the influx of what I would call West Indians turned Negropean, that would be the defining factor, the pivotal factor, that they were being dominated by a king. They did not come on their own recognizance. We may see in a future reading, which I've been putting off, reading about Chief Powhatan, how the agents of the king were fearful if they did not accomplish what he wanted them to accomplish, like crowning King Powhatan with a British crown. King Powhatan refused to kneel, but these guys, they knew that if they did not get that crown on his head, King James was going to be mighty pissed with them, and we don't know what could happen to them. So this was a duress all around. King James was reared up by the priesthood. They filled his head from childhood with how superior he was. So even though he is very probably of a West Indian origin, yeah, those Irish and Scottish names are very West Indian. And I'm not shying away from admitting that. The Mick this and the Mick that, the McDonald and all of that crap is very much West Indian. So let's go through this again. Let me say it for the record. West Indians were terrorized with the arrival of Columbus, who ended up kidnapping them to Europe and Africa under the dominance of a crazed King James. These people were forced to the Americas. They could either live out their prison sentence in from what I understand, many cases they were like prisoners, just like the migrants that are being dumped here now. So you're looking at the dregs of society, the prison fodder of the West Indies, basically. Who were dumped here by King James. They, again, finish your prison sentence or go be a colonist or a colonizer in the Americas. What choice would many of us have made? We were promised some kind of redemption if we chose to be a colonist, So let's read this one more time. The Amaru Washita Degdamundia Moors were originally a group of priests from the Egypt of the West that is in the Americas. Okay? From the best evidence we have is that it was called Tameri at that time, not Egypt. That Egypt is said to be the Greek name of Tamer. So they were also known as the Dogon, the Olmecs, and the Mayans. So right there, we cross all those off our list because a lot of times we'll find channels that's trying to say that them was us, da da da, the Olmecs was us, the Mayans was us, the Dogon is us, blah 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 blah. No, they're part of the Moorish Empire. Okay, that's why I always say we have to go before the Mayans because you're going to run right into the what they call the Egyptians, right? But a lot of our people have this aversion. Again, I always talk about it. The aversion. You're not Egypt. There was no Egypt over here. You stay in that sunken place as long as you like. We got it from the horse's mouth right here. Okay? The Amaru Washita Dedugdamundia Moors were originally a group of priests from the Egypt of the West in America. These were the Amun priesthood. The Amun priesthood, okay? They're still here pushing Amun, okay? On the down low, okay? That was Ra, his duplicate, changeling, doppelganger, but not really Ra, is Amun. So they are claiming the Dogon. Those are West Africans. Olmecs, mines. Them is the Moorish contingency. Those are all the Moorish committee. Okay. Okay. So I want to jump down here. Well, Egypt was once the capital of the world. It still is because it's in America. Okay. This is not bragging. Okay. Again, do you see people running to Africa to make money, to prosper, to have an opportunity, to live a dream, which is really a nightmare? So how is Africa the motherland when she don't got nothing to offer and everything is being offered in America? Okay. Africa was more like, I think it was for people who were exiled. I'll be very honest. That's what it's looking like to me. And this, again, this is not a diss. It's just the facts. Egypt was once and still is the capital of the world. We had the World Trade Center here. Where were what does that sound like before they knocked it down, of course, because it's no longer about trade. I think that was a symbolism of the end of honest or more honest trade and the extension of a commerce jurisdiction. There was no world trade in Africa, was there? No, right? Because it wasn't considered a capital like that, right? In fact, the Pharaoh gave the ancient Moabites, this is coming up a lot lately, it just seems like the ancestors are really, I think, trying to make this stick. So the Moors had to get permission once again. If Egypt had to give the Egypt that was in the West, according to this narrative, from a horse's mouth, because this brother is one of these people, okay? He's a WASHITA Moor, okay? So somebody over in Indian land had to give the Moors what? Permission? So y'all ain't the top dog. You had to get permission from a king in America, according to what you're telling us here. Now, then another writing will say that he was in Africa. See, they need that confusion. They need to have that double, that shadow of doubt. the first Egypt and the one that the horse's mouth is talking about, this guy's the horse's mouth. That other stuff we saw, that's secondary. This guy is a WASHITA Moor. He tells us that in this article. So again, what does that tell you about Indians? We had superior rights over Moors. That is what's being taken from us every time we call ourselves a damn Moor. That means we had to get permission. See, if we were the Indians that we're supposed to be and embraced it, we would be the ones who had to give permission. 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 We're not getting permission from the Moors. That Pharaoh would have been an American. And if they're not associating him as a Moor and they're just calling him the Pharaoh, in the other reading we saw pharaohs with an S. Now it's a little more hairs from the horse's mouth. You get it a little bit more clear, right? It was one Pharaoh here. Gave the ancient Moabite Moors. Now, see, that's why I focused on Moabites, because in the other reading, the last reading, we had Moabites, Hamathitids, and Canaanites. And what we didn't comment on was the fact that Canaanites are said to be cursed. So when you take on being a Moabite, a Hamathite, and a Canaanite, because they're all Moors, you're taking on the curse, baby. We weren't cursed, they were. And y'all want to play patty cake with the Moors and the corporation. Yeah, they're going to grab your hand and put you on the side of where they stand and take your place. You keep playing this foolish game. Ain't nobody stopping us except these Moors. They are, when I say that, I don't mean that they're actually stopping. So what I mean is they're the ones that are presenting the biggest stumbling block to us stepping into our birthright. They are hanging on just like they describe in the Bible when Jacob was holding on to the heel of Esau. Ooh, me too, take me. Negro, no. Step back, you're black. And go back to Africa where you were exiled. They are very, don't let that smile fool you. Don't let all that random ass knowledge fool you. These people are harboring a hate that an Indian can't even conceive of. O positive being your base blood, you can't conceive of what O negative, because these people do claim to be O negative. When they talk about the what they call the Basque in Spain, maybe that was the Moors. They said, you know, they bragging about being O negative. I ain't trying to be that. You could have had that shit. So you're the O negative element, right? The oldest, one of the oldest blood is the oldest blood, but it's negative. So who came first, the positive or the negative? You decide. You decide. But if you have sense, you'll know it had to be the positive. Because that which negates, that which attacks, that which separates from O positive would be secondary to O positive. Just catch it, catch it. Well, Egypt was once the capital and still is of the world. In fact, the Pharaoh gave the ancient Moabites. You want to be a Moabite, y'all? That's what you want to be? The rest of that is the Hamathites. I'm just going to simplify that. And the Canaanites. Them is your brethren. Y'all all one, okay? So when you say you're a Moor, again, you're of the cursed Canaanite branch, okay? Better get out of that Bible, Indians. You better get the fuck out of that Bible, Indians. And I really wanted to stress that because I missed it last time when I read her. I was distracted by hammer titties that I didn't catch the canon titties. The canon titties. But that's the cursed bunch, y'all. We should have grabbed that. Why didn't we grab that? It wasn't time, I guess. But I should have grabbed that because they got us thinking we're the cursed, right? Yeah, yeah. And now they're more holy. These cursed people are now the most holy ones, the Moors. They don't now they righteous all of a sudden. Y'all were cursed. That's why y'all was expelled so much. Okay. Okay. So again, when we say Moabites, we got to throw in the Hamathites and the Canaanites. Okay. We ain't none of them as American Indians. And these Washita and the 5 civilized tribes and the Iroquois, and to the extent that the Lenape is down with this, y'all claiming a curse, y'all. Okay, y'all claiming curse. Okay, you need to get up out of it. Okay, and we're gonna say this, even if it is a part of your bloodline, you don't have to claim that. You can still stand on what's right. Um, so they had to get permission to settle Morocco, Indiana. Now, this was problematic because Indiana was made in what was it? 1851. Was there pharaohs in 1851? Okay. That's when Indiana was Indiana. Okay, in America. So this was highly this is where I it's just one of those things, yo. Uh yeah, Morocco, Indiana was founded in 1850. So what was the pharaoh in 1851 that gave the Moabites see, this is where their stories, I think this is, they sort of just interchange. Remember when we said they will use, it's like I was saying, they try to use things, they need the double talk. So at different times, you don't know which Africa, I'm sorry, which Egypt they're talking about, right? So they get to mix it keep you confused. You staying in a constant state of chaos because you're working with two different Egypts. But remember, there was no one in Africa until 1956. So this is what we're going to try to, I don't know, y'all. It's like lies are, it's very challenging trying to make sense of all these lies. I'll be honest. But I did get a nugget out of this. Then all I can say right now is that's all I got now. Hopefully we get more. But so the Pharaoh gave the Moabites permission to settle Morocco, Indiana. Okay. But that didn't happen until 1851. So they're time traveling again. I don't even know, I just don't know how to make that make sense. I don't know how. Added to the fact that there was a treaty in 1787, right? Where was, we asked this question before, where was Morocco to sign a treaty when it didn't exist until 1851? Where was Morocco in 1787 to sign a treaty when there was no physical Morocco until 1851, they're saying, in Morocco, Indiana. Y'all, I think when you're indoctrinated, you say something like this and you don't even think twice about it. This is what noble whoever whatever told me, and this is what it is, because he was noble boo 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 boo. Okay, so I just say it, I repeat it like a mantra. I don't know why it doesn't make sense. I just say it like a lot of Christians do. But that's the part where you say, well, God just don't want us to know. There's just some things we not, yeah. Mm-hmm. Again, I was never that person that felt, oh, I can't know. When I want to know, I'm going to know. When I choose to know, I will know. So Morocco, Indiana will tell you it was founded in 1851. So a pharaoh gave them permission in 1851 is what this is reading. Based off of the Morocco that is in North Africa. Okay. So he's saying that they're going to say something and you're going to think it's the one in North Africa. The only problem is that the Morocco that is in North Africa wasn't founded until 1956. And this is something else we missed, or I missed. I will put that on you. The 1956. What is significant here? So that was the last Morocco, the one in Africa. But somehow it's being given a mythical past that it existed as far back as 780 something BC, or is it, yeah, is it BC? I think by some magic, they had some magic earth. The Moors gave the Iroquois some mystical, magical earth. So maybe that's what happened. It was a mystical, magical earth that was in 1787, when there was no real earth where Morocco was located. How do you sign a treaty in 1787 when there's no Morocco present on the face of the planet? But we're calling it, what he calls it, the Treaty of Morocco. Okay, so we'll jump from there. No, actually, it's not a big jump. The last of the Almoracan government fell in 1956. What we didn't focus on was that's the same time that the one in Africa was created. So they're saying something fell here in America and was built in Africa, y'all. They're trying to say that, well, let's read it. The last of the Almoracan government fell in 1956 with the abolishment of the consular court, when Black people accepted civil rights. This really pisses me off. Where were the Moors to tell us not to accept civil rights? Where were they when we were getting our ass whooped in what they call Jim Crow era? So y'all was quiet while that was happening. And the first time that we see something that we thought would be relief from this terrorism, you're saying we let you down. We let you down, Moors, because we took civil rights and you had to go back to Africa or something, whatever this narrative is saying, because that's when Morocco suddenly pops up in Africa. Morocco disappears and appears when apparently this is just their Shangri-La. It's Xanadu, right? It's Nibiru. It's Atlantis. It's Lemuria. It's just a magical, mystical place, right? It don't have to be here to sign a treaty in 1787. It just materialized in the windmills of our Moroccan minds. But that's what I found so interesting here. So their government fell when we got civil rights. Their government fell, y'all. But what were they doing while we was getting our ass kicked? Just standing there? And as soon as, so it's to me, this is how it's reading to me. We were getting our ass kicked without a legal system to back it, really, because we weren't supposed to be in their system, even though so many of our Indians now still want to stay in the corporation. They are evidently part of the 5 civilized tribes, little agents of the 5 civilized tribes and the Iroquois Confederacy, and to the extent that Lenni Lenape is involved, them too. So they could leave once we were in the legal system that would pick up the reins in kicking our ass legally. So then the Moors could leave and go to Africa, right? And it's leave the scene, right? None of us knew about this, evidently, because again, where were the Moors telling us to not take civil rights because you would lose your birthright, you would lose your land if you became a Democrat? Where were the Moors to advise us about that? But they will tell us with no qualms that their government fell in 1956. So are they saying that before we had, wait a minute, no. It's like they're calling their government the 13 colonies government, right? The government of the 13 colonies, right? No, that was theirs. They tell us that the last of the Almaracan government fell in 1956 with the abolishment of the consular court, when Black people accepted civil rights over, and they're going to call us Black. That's another piss me off moment right there. They won't. Anyway, when we accepted civil rights over natural rights, you don't talk about natural rights. In fact, when you talk, you spit out statutes and codes, right? You want us to navigate through that bullshit when you know damn well that for every positive statute or code, there's probably 2 or more that go against that. That's the problem that Peter DeRico has with federal Indian law. It has a way of being Indian giver type of stuff. Because one law will say, yes, you're sovereign. Then the other law will say, no, well, you're domestic dependent sovereign, which is not really the same as sovereign. So then why did you say I'm sovereign? Because you can use words, your word spells any way you like, right? If we're in your system, you get to redefine words that keep us under your jurisdiction. Or you redefine words to keep us in your jurisdiction. After all this time, we still believe that something is going to change if we stay in this system. We've seen it fail. I said this before, and I need to say it again. If Martin Luther King couldn't get this thing to work, it was built broke. You didn't get a better man than Martin Luther King. Why do I say that? Because Martin, agent that he may have been at first, he made sure that he tiptoed in this system, let them know that we're not violent. That was the golden opportunity. If this was to ever work for us, if this system was to ever embrace us, that was the moment, y'all. And that moment has passed. So did Martin Luther King. And where have we gotten? But y'all still want to vote, right? You think voting is going to change. If you don't learn from the past, you're doomed to repeat it. But again, if you're an agent, well, none of this is never mind, because you know exactly what you're doing. You can play as dumb as bricks as long as you want, but you know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly what you're doing. You think Indians are going to keep playing in this system, a futile game of you lose every time if you're an Indian in this system. So, a consular court, the definition here is a definition of consular court. Oh, it's not the definition. Okay. A tribunal convened by public officials who reside in a foreign country. So the Moors are saying that they were in a foreign country when they were here, right? Because it was in 1956 when their government fell that a Morocco sprang up in Africa. So I finally realized the foreign country they're speaking of is the one that they're claiming to be indigenous to. So even they are telling us they were in a foreign country. To protect the interests of their country for the settlement of civil cases. Well, Indians didn't have what they call in civil cases. So even their wording is giving them away. To protect, so you were part of the federal system. Well, you created it. That I will say you told us that in this, we'll read that part. So a tribunal, this is the council of court that they had in America. Okay. But they left after and we know it was America because that's where the civil rights took place, right? In America, right? So their government fell, the government that none of us knew about. Again, how many of you knew that there was an Moroccan government in 1956? Where were they when we were getting our ass kicked? Were they representing Indians? They couldn't have been, but they're going to say that they were. A tribunal convened by public officials who reside in a foreign country. Those officials, I think what they're trying to tell us is that they would have been subjects of the Sultan. I do believe, right? Because it is a monarchy after all. No? The whole Moorish system is a monarchy. No? And I believe that's depending on your last name is where you fit in their caste system. But that's the, you know, you know, their caste system is not quite like the ones that they put on other people exactly, right? But it's similar enough, right? A tribunal convened by public officials who reside in a foreign country to protect the interest of their country. So where's their country? They're in a foreign country to protect the interest of their country. They're not telling us where their country is, though, but they're letting us know that they're in a foreign country when they talk about being in America. that's what I kind of couldn't figure out when I first did this video. So they're protecting the interests of their country, the mythical, magical Morocco that appears and disappears on command. For the settlement of civil cases based upon situations that happened in the foreign nation. America is the foreign nation. That's what that, see, now I'm getting. I wish I got it the first time. So they're here to settle civil cases. Indians didn't have civil cases, right? Unless they were in, accepting colonizer system. So they were here for the settlement of civil cases based upon situations that happen in the foreign nation and which is held pursuant to authority granted by treaty. The 1787 Morocco Treaty of Peace. See, that's what I was talking. How do we have a treaty in 1787 called the Morocco Treaty of Peace and Friendship when there was no Morocco on the land? What was it? A corporation like King James, Plymouth Corporation and Virginia Corporation or whatever? That's what it was. So y'all just the same two sides of the same family. Some of y'all is on the Islam tip. Some of y'all is on the Hebrew Israelite tip. Where was Morocco in 1787 if it wasn't on Earth? The one in America was developed in 1851, right here. 1851, right? So if you just came into being in 1851, again, how did you sign a treaty in 1787? How many years is that difference? Let's do the math. Because you know I need a calculator for all this, right? Even for simple stuff. So you got 1851 minus 1787, right? 64 years difference. So they time traveled to create a treaty. But we want to, just make sure that, we are clear that the math here is not mathing, Taraji. (1851) is America's Morocco. 1956 is Africa's Morocco. 1787, whose Morocco is this? I'm going to circle all of them just to complete the circle. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, okay. And then we're going to go right here for all the different Moroccos, right? Just breathe that in and try to make it make sense. But unfortunately, I think what will probably happen is if there's Moors watching, they're going to go to their Grand Sheikh, High Poompa, whatever, and he's going to do abracadabra, hocus pocus. This is what happened. This is why that is. And they're going to believe it. And then they're going to come to us and make it sound like it makes sense. But it won't. They'll have an answer. I do believe they'll come up with something. Well, what happened was when Mu went under in 1787, we was on Mu when we had signed a treaty while we was on Mu, because you know Mu stands for more, right? Yeah. It also stands for Moo the Fool. Okay. Boo Boo the Fool and Moo Moo the Fool. Okay. All righty. So there's our dilemma there, but let's go down a little more. I think you should screenshot this. And okay, do we feel like writing? Because it's so hard to write with this stuff. Uh, we could caption this maybe. Wait, come on now. What happened to my? Oh, I'm not on the page anymore. Okay, so I have to be on the page. Okay. Where? Where? Oh, that's not. Oh gosh, here we go again. Oh, let's just go with it. Freak gosh. Where? It's very hard to write with this. Where? Oh no, we can't. No, okay, so that's not. We got. I knew I shouldn't have started this. I knew it. They probably praying to the demon gods that I can't write this. Putting Iroquois voodoo spell cast upon me. Where is? Where is this? Where? Where? And you could screenshot this and go into deep prayer and try to make this make sense. Where is this? I know it looked like I can't write. And then I get all persnickety about it. I want to try to make it right and crap. Just let it be, let it go, yo. Let it go. Time is a wasted. Where is this? Where is this? Okay. Okay. It must be a corporation, y'all, which shows where the corporation is coming from as well, or the model, the European model of it being used by Moors. Okay. And then what's kind of also frightening is that this 1787 is the same time that our Constitution comes out, the first one. But let's read what the whole system, who it was built for, who it was made for, who brought it here, and who it was made for. Okay. We have to finish. A consular court exercises criminal jurisdiction in some instances, but it determines, I'm sorry, but its determinations are reviewable by the courts of the home government. So that's the government that didn't exist in Africa yet, right? Where's their home government at though? Because the one in Africa, that only happened after you say your government fell in 1956. And then Morocco pops up in Africa the same year. But a consular court exercises criminal jurisdiction in some instances, but its determinations are reviewable by the courts of the home government. The home government. I'm not sure which home they're talking about. When you're a colonizer, that's a very tough question because everybody's home just becomes yours, right? So I'm not sure what you do. The last of the U.S. consular courts of Morocco was abolished in 1956. And then suddenly there's a Morocco in Africa. The 1787 Morocco Treaty of Peace and Friendship was a means to try to stop all of the fighting over the land. So the Moors brought the Europeans to the table. The Moors brought Europeans to the table to form a peaceful two-system government. So when we say that this is a British government, yes and yes, right? But we also have the Moors telling us that they formed this government. So even if somehow the United States was not a British government, it's still a Moorish government, is my point. And Moors are not Indians, right? Or do we get that confused? The 1787 Morocco Treaty of Peace and Friendship was a means to try to stop all the fighting that they started over the land. So the Moors brought the Europeans to the table. They didn't bother with us Indians, right? Now all this is taking place on our land, right? But we're not involved, right? And I think that's where the trickery comes in. They're going to say we were, but were we? Or was it just our doppelgangers acting like us or saying that they're us? So the Moors, that the 5 civilized tribes, I'm led to believe, brought the Europeans to the table to form a peaceful two-system government, one for the Moors and one for the Europeans. Where are the Indians in that, right? Evidence of this two-system government can be found on the back of a $1 bill. So even the money is from the Moors. Notice the 2 seals, which suggest 2 governments. I would think so. So there's 2 governments, but we read somewhere that there's 3 sovereigns on the land. But if the 3rd sovereign insists on being in one of these 2 governments, one for Negropeans and one for Moors, then they will be at the bottom of the caste system in these 2 governments. Now, we've already established through common sense that Moors always have a caste system, just like our government does, because it was created by the Moors. That's what we just read. So they built in their slave class, and they all what they do is they use the indigenous people to be that slave class wherever they are. The seal of the Great Pyramid with an eye above it is the Moorish seal. The other seal with the bald eagle holding 13 arrows, holding the poor 13 colonies Indians in its grip, is the seal for the European. So basically, the Moors are taking the place of the Indians in these dealings. We're not mentioned. They are, depending on the fact that we look alike, to be their main claim. And it's interesting, that they have a pyramid representing themselves, right? Not mounds, pyramids with an eye above it. That's the Moorish seal. And the other seal with the bald eagle holding 13 arrows is the seal for the European. I just want to make it clear that a bald eagle is not the same as the falcon. Now, the falcon was truly the symbol that ancient Tameri used. But what I found about the bald eagle, why the Moors like the bald eagle is because it has a white head. And I think for the Moors that symbolizes that there's a white head on the brown body. Okay, so they use I'm sorry, an eagle, where we use the falcon in the most ancient times. So even the bird, it was hijacked with another bird, right? So I think we're going to leave it here. Yeah, let's go up here. Um, maybe this should be the the I don't know, it's going to be too small to read, but maybe I should fix that up a little bit to make it the caption that I might use for this video. We're gonna, again, like we said, we're gonna make this a short video because it is a morning video, which means I have to log in for work in a matter excuse me, of a few minutes. Uh, Today is a work from home day. Okay, where is this? Where was Morocco located in 1787 if it was only founded in America first in 1851? Okay, so that's our question. But we're doing this video because, one, I want to show that our caste system was also like the other two, in that it was people that look like us that was really instigating the whole entire thing. And then when white people, that's another thing. A lot of us will say that Caucasians only appeared in the late 1800s. Before that, it was all Moors, right? And Indians, right? So look at these dates, you know. When Morocco fell, I'm sorry, no, let me see. No, that's not it. When it was founded, there was no wait, that is late mid 1800s. So maybe there were a few, but definitely in 1787, when the Treaty of Peace and Friendship was made, there was no Caucasians here, right? So who were we fighting? All through, actually, colonization, the initial 13 colonies. What I'm hearing some Indians say is true, and I'm not saying it's not, I'm just saying that helps us line up our ducks. There was no white people here in 1787 and before, like in 1776, when, these were all people of color, right? So this government was created by people that look like us, right? And if the people that look like us are supporting this government, if Indians that look like us are supporting this government, that means they would be the same Indians that created it, or their ancestors, right? So that means when we shake in our boots fearing the federal system, we're just fearing other Black people, aren't we? We in our visions of uh grand illusions, we think it's some foreign man that it's our biggest, he's behind all of it. No, No, the Moors just told us that they made a two-system government, and we want to just say it again. Where do they do that at? What these black men made a government that would later serve only the white folks in the caste system. These were black men that did this, right? So over time, when they call someone white, it was based on what he looked like in his skin, right? So they made sure that Indians were at the bottom of the caste system in a system that they created. And then they want to come and tell us that they're indigenous. You mean I still don't like that word, but for convenience sake, we're just throwing it out there. You mean to tell me I'm an American Indian? Is that what you mean? But because you look like me, you're going to look me in my face and tell me that we are American Indians? When you did all you could to get rid of my ass on my own land up to this day, and it's more lethal than it's ever been. Because again, we got to remember we're in post-COVID vaccine time, y'all. We ain't seen the last of that, right? We ain't seen the last of it. It's still in effect, right? So even now, we have Moors under some illusion that they are our friends and they're here to help us. Again, let me tell you how your help would look if it was real. This is how your help would look. You would know and you would tell us basically everything that this woman, Anna Von Wright, is telling us. It basically, you would be saying that we're not supposed to be in a federal system, right? You would be telling us, fuck those statutes and codes, but instead you're trying to navigate in them and something that, well, this code said this and that code said that. We don't give a fuck about that. That's your shit for your Europeans, right? So don't get us confused with you. If the Moors were genuinely here to help American Indians, we wouldn't have so many American Indians trying to find remedy within the federal system. We have a white attorney named Peter DeRico telling us that federal Indian law is federal anti-Indian law. I'm just going to say that until it makes sense. So that what he's telling us is the law that your Moors brought here are anti-Indian. But no, we still want to play like we're dumb as rocks, right? We still just gonna march merrily forward thinking that there's a remedy in the federal system, even when Indians say that we're not supposed to be in that system. Evidenced by the fact that we weren't even enumerated. Who in this system is not supposed to be enumerated? What other people are not supposed to be enumerated? That means we are unique. We are uniquely American. Now I have to look and see what Anna says. Are state nationals supposed to be enumerated? Because I believe they are. They're not like us, okay? And so I just want to say anyone who thinks or tries to insinuate that I'm saying that we should be like Anna, no, I'm saying that her model lines up with ours. What is the model? Oh, the model is simple. You're not in a federal system. You're not supposed to be in a federal system. That goes double triple for American Indians. But Anna also said that if the government is coming up against the people, that they have a right to abolish it. Mm-hmm. That's a right that was built into the system. But here's the problem, and I'm just going to say it this way: the system was built broke. It came with a lot of promises, just like the promise of citizenship did, and then one by one, all those promises were broken. It came just like the treaties did, promising us, I don't know, some kind of shitty deal that, this was your land and we know that's yours. But then they rescinded on all those treaties. What is the common thing here? The common thing is that all these things that they break, they have a right. They have a right to because they created it. Indians, once we start creating, that is law for us, yo. And it has to be honored. Why? Because we were here before the feds got here. Whatever we had before that, and due to the doctrine of discovery being denounced, is to be returned to us. The 13 states, or now 50, would have to go back to being colonies. And then when people that are here really get some, what do they call it? But when they really become patriots, when the foreigners really become patriots or patriots, they will go home. They think they're patriots here on our ancestral land. Now, I'm not going to be too mad at them because they've been misled by the Moors to think that this is their land. But if you were a true patriot, you'd take your ass back home. And I say that with respect. I know it's not their fault. I know it's not the Caucasians' fault that they're here and that this has like it's become a second home. This is the doing of the Moors. And lastly, this system, even if we could argue, which we can't, that it's not British, we still can't argue that it's not something that was for Indians. We can't argue that it was something for Indians if it was created for Moors. So as some of our Indians are trying to, what do you call it, vindicate the government as like they're innocent and didn't do nothing, that's not actually correct. First of all, they weren't supposed to include us in it. We were not to be enumerated or taxed because we were Indians, not taxed. So even if somehow we are thinking that the United States government is not implicated, again, that's highly incorrect. Devastatingly incorrect. I don't know why we would want to entertain that this government has nothing to do with our destruction. I don't know who would do that except those who are or are choosing to be agents of the 5 civilized tribes, the Iroquois Confederacy, or the Lenape, who have been compromised as well. They were under Iroquois domination. They were a group of Algonquins who were dominated by Iroquois. And I said it before, in a way, I can't really come down too hard on them. They were under duress, but I would really like to see them come out of that mess. On that note, hello, we're going to close out. Thank you for watching. I think we're under, yes, just under an hour and a half. That's perfect. Peace, health, wealth, your land back, your identity back, all the great things. Until next time, be and stay highly favored. Thank you.